This is our very first live show with a transportation company. We're very excited to introduce our guest here. To my right here is Casey Snell, or Kevin Snell, whichever you want to call him here. CEO, founder, president of Casey Can Transport, the very first licensed transportation facility in Missouri. So we have Kevin over here, and then to my left we have Justin Morris.
Hello. I have about 25 years of military law enforcement experience. 10 years of that is active duty Army, 15 years in law enforcement, and then I've been in executive protection for about the last 10 years.
So I did 15 years with Johnson County, Kansas Sheriff's Office. Before I started here, before that I worked for Franklin County Juvenile Detention. My father was in law enforcement, and I kind of had two passions: was do I be a teacher or to be in law enforcement? And I was lucky enough to go to Johnson County and get the opportunity to be in our full-time training unit for 9 years there, and then did 15 years with the Sheriff's Office. And I was like, hey, I got a lot of opportunities to come out and train and help people. That's kind of where my passion is. And so I took an early retirement from the Sheriff's Office, and I was out. And then one of my buddies that also works for the company, Evan Hall, contacted me. He's like, hey, we got this security company, and he introduced me to Kevin. It's like, it's medical marijuana. Are you good with that? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. It's a good product that people are serving out there. So I got involved with it, and it's been great. It's been an awesome opportunity. And like you and I were talking earlier, it's like, this is a very hard-working community. I get to work with obviously fellow transporters, but also cultivation, manufacturing people, how hard they work, how many hours a day they work. I get to see that. And honestly, it makes me better seeing that work ethic and ingenuity. It's been a lot better than I expected.
Why are ex-military or ex-police officers or veterans, why are they being put in charge of the transportation side of things that are doing this particular side of the job in the medical side?
Well, I can tell you why I do and why I chose military and law enforcement veterans, most of which, by the way, our employees, most of them are both. They're dual military and law enforcement veterans. But they spend their entire careers protecting assets, people, locations, and information. It just seemed like a good fit. Now, I started this initially just for military veterans, ones that were getting out of the military, then getting into government contracting and still deploying overseas in those austere environments, still separating from their family. So I missed the majority of my oldest growing up because I was always gone, deployment after deployment after deployment, long hours, working nights in law enforcement. It's a tough balance for family. But the discipline of military and law enforcement veterans is just a perfect fit for this. You have to be very flexible.
It's like a generic answer that people, why do you want to be a police officer? It's like, I want to help people. That's true. I mean, for a lot of us, that is true. And it sounds like it's not a good answer on a law enforcement interview without going into more detail, but it's true. They want to help people. And they want to protect. They have that sense. It's kind of like, the blind side. You scored like 90-some% on the protection deal on this test. And I think that's the attitude that law enforcement, military, not all of them, but that bring to that. And it's kind of like that's what we want to do. That's where our skills are at.
It seems like there's a lot more dangerous jobs out there for retired police officers and military than coming into the cannabis space. It seems like would be a preferred job for those people because
it's an excellent job. And I'll tell you one thing. It's simple answer is like, everybody's happy to see you, man. You're bringing medication that people want, that people need, and everybody's happy to see you. So that's definitely different than day-to-day law enforcement. And it's a good thing. Law enforcement in general deals with people on their worst day, or a small percentage that most of the public doesn't have to deal with. And that's a good thing. But those people are dealing with people on their worst days, and the small percentage of people that have worse days a lot of the days. So it's a good thing for law enforcement to get kind of out of that toxic environment.
And that's a misnomer. We hear that quite a bit. We don't make the laws. We're hired to enforce those laws, whether we agree with them or not, unfortunately.
It does not matter. They don't listen to us. It does not matter.
Any cultivation, manufacturing, dispensary, they're all on DHSS's on their time, right? And so they don't know when they're going to get the approval to operate. So all of a sudden they think, well, we're going to get it this day, and then 2 weeks pass and they don't know yet. They still haven't heard anything. And so you're on kind of notice, a 2-week notice. And all of a sudden 3 weeks later, they finally get that call. and they're all right. We finally got the call. We have all of our staff that's going to be there at this dispensary and tomorrow or the next day, and we need you guys to get all the product there. That you know, and you're like, well, hang on a second.
A few more details in between A and B, but yes.
Yeah, we already kind of had like all this stuff planned out. Now we got to add this to your route because it just came up. You know, and there's a lot of things to figure out, and nobody has any heads up. Nobody does.
No.
So what is that lack of notice? Very last minute. It's got to be stressful, right? What is that? How has that been on you?
It is, because we have some clients that are on a contract, and you know that's our obligation. And then we have others that are reaching out to us that need help because maybe their transport's not covering everything, is not efficient enough. Maybe they haven't gotten it yet. Maybe it's temporary. But you know, we only have so many vehicles. We only have so much manpower, so much body armor and technology that has to be in every vehicle and safes and all that. So we can only do as much as our resources can allow.
You're like the version of me on the transport side. I'm on the media side, but I always see you hustling out there to make those connections early on, which obviously was the game changer for you guys to be probably the biggest transportation company that's up and running right now.
We are constantly hiring. Just hired 3 more that are going to start next week. We are always looking.
Do they need to be, so I know you're primarily hiring retired veterans or retired police or local law enforcement. Is that the standard?
That is our target employee, but we will not turn someone else away if they have a skill set to bring to the table. They can be specifically protective service. They can be good in logistics or maybe even IT. As long as we can cross the a tactical sense with their capabilities, people skills. I mean, 4 things we always look for: mentally alert, physically strong, morally straight, tactically sound.
But seeing the actual medical side of it, it's like, yeah, I'd go to the dispensary and super rewarding to see people come in there, and it's like, you know, you see people come in there with rheumatoid arthritis, all kinds of issues, they can't hardly walk, and it's like, I would really like to, and this is my opinion, to try to treat pain, anxiety, other issues with medical marijuana before I went to an opioid pill or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm transporting medical marijuana, and you get different reactions, but it's like, it's whatever. I'm proud to do what I'm doing. I'm proud to work for a great company that I am. I fought a lot of people that were drunk or high on other drugs, but if you compare that to somebody who's just high on marijuana, I can't name one. I really can't. And that's why I tell people, I fought a lot of drunk people. That's been legal and it's been acceptable, but if you really look at it, how many people are using alcohol as a true medical treatment compared to marijuana? I mean, people self-medicate with alcohol, don't get me wrong, but actual give them benefits, but it's accepted, you know, and that's kind of where my mindset is with that.
We are very tactical in our approach in the sense of how we look, but that's not for, you know, to scare away patients. That's so the criminal element on the outside looks in and says, yeah, no, we're not going to screw with that facility. We're not going to mess with those patients. We're not going to try to steal or take anything from them. But there are so many military veterans that come in wearing their hats and their pins and their coats and all these things that say, you know, I was a military veteran. And they're in wheelchairs, they're amputees, or just struggling to walk or even stand. And then you're out there, we expect it from our guards, is we're out there pushing them.
But as we go into adult use and the market expands, it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the bigger the market gets, the more product that's out there, the more that transportation is going on, the higher the likelihood of a target being acquired by theft. Absolutely. It's going to happen. So it's not about if it's going to happen. It's about when it's going to happen and who's prepared for it and who is not. And as the industry expands, it's only going to become more prevalent.
To me, is the biggest would be a dispensary, a person. You know, we get a lot of elderly people working, they get a big order and they're walking out to their car and somebody hits them. That's what I want to prevent. The main thing. I mean, that's the thing that really hits me is like, I want to be there to prevent that.
If you think you'd be good at it, you want to apply, by all means apply. You can send your resume to my email address, kevin@kcprotect.com. And with that resume and the same email, a photo, a headshot, chest and above, in good lighting, neutral background, and preferably in a black polo if possible. That's it. First step. Easy peasy.
It's so cool for us to see people with your talents in past industries coming into this industry and offering those services. So kudos to you guys.